Tonight, the Mamaroneck Chamber of Commerce is honoring Dr. Maloney for his selfless commitment to service in the Mamaroneck community. I am honored to stand here before you and recognize him for all the accomplishments he has done through his long career. I would like to share a story first on how Tony and I first met Dr. Maloney. The family practitioner that we were using way back 30 years ago was by appointment only. So we'd call for our appointment, we'd go in for our appointment, we'd always be on time, and then what inevitably happened was that we would wait hours and hours and hours before we would be taken in. We reached a level of frustration that we decided to look for a new family practitioner. And so at that time, going back 30 years ago, the internet was not born in the manner that it is today. Insurance companies, some of you may remember, had books the size of telephone books. And you needed to hunt through it to find a doctor, pick from this list of doctors. So what we did was we sat and looked through this telephone book size insurance thing, and we looked at all the practitioners. And so I began searching the hundreds and hundreds of them in the Westchester County area. I came across this name, Maloney. And so he was living in Mamaroneck. He was working in Mamaroneck. With a name like O'Hanlon, I felt an immediate connection to this Irish doctor. So I immediately closed the book, called, made an appointment. Nancy answered the phone and said, "We only take walk-ins." And I kind of gulped and said, what does that mean? When we arrived, we found that there were 30 plus people in the waiting room waiting to see the doc. We were naturally thinking this guy must be a celebrity or something. But we figured we're going to be here a long time. And I looked at Tony and said, this is going to be a long wait. Then, with this manly, distinctive, gruff voice, we heard the name shouted out, "Joseph!" And with that, a person stood up at attention and cautiously walked into the doc's office. Now, I must admit, at that moment, I felt like I was inside a Seinfeld episode. I felt like I was in the Soup Nazi episode. The Soup Nazi would turn around and say, "Next!" And then everyone was standing rigid, and they'd walk to the side like that. And I felt like the same thing was occurring with Dr. Maloney. Well, about 15 to 20 minutes after we walked into the doc's office, we heard, "O'Hanlon," in that gruff voice that he always is known for. With that, my wife and I stood at attention. We too walked cautiously into his office. And that, my friends, was the beginning of our love story for this man, Dr. Maloney. Now, I want to get a little bit more serious on some of his accomplishments. Let me say a few more things about this. To Tony and I, he is a great healer. Some of you may not know this. When COVID hit, Doc worked tirelessly around the clock for more than 2 years straight without a break, 7 days a week, helping anyone he could. What I mean by this is some of our own friends and family members couldn't get the assistance of many doctors, their own personal doctors. But Dr. Maloney said, "Send them my way," and send them his way we did. And he helped all of them. This is part of his character. This is who this man is. And I'm sure every one of his patients was afforded the same opportunity to bring their family and friends in to be healed by this man during one of the toughest times of our lives in 2020. We all remember that. He was the first to publish the COVID path physiology and TX protocol. He was the first to implement COVID drive-through test sites in New York. That's amazing that he was out in the front of every other doctor making this happen. There is no doubt in my mind or my wife's mind that he saved countless lives.